Hello, good evening. Welcome to another, what is turning out to be another on the road gentleman's agreement remix edition of the Cantina MX podcast. Sean ustedes bienvenidos, amigos aficionados, al único podcast a donde hay un idiota manejando y charlando de fútbol mexicano. That is me, John Chagu. Glad to have you guys with us here on the CantinaMX podcast. We have a whole bunch of stuff to get to tonight. As always, my partner in crime joining me, and I'm sure we'll have other folks join us a little later, but over in Southern California, Joel Aceves joins us. Joel, how are you, sir?
Greetings, John. I am doing pretty good.
Now, Joel, yes, please.
I was just saying it's a very interesting week for Mexican football. A lot of talking points. So it makes this should make for an interesting podcast.
You're absolutely right, Joel. There's a lot of things we can get to. I wish I could have. I can't have a cold one right now. Oh yeah. You don't have to rub it in. You don't have to rub it in. No, well, I shouldn't. I should. But you're right, Joel. A very interesting week. You're there in Southern California.
I know.
Tata Martino came to Southern
missed
California. Him. Well, see, you don't. Joel, we're trying to establish credibility. What I was going to ask you was, did you visit with him before or after his press conference?
Hey.
And you go and say I missed him, so I can't even ask you anymore.
They would have known. Because he was fairly accessible since he was at LA Live. He was photographed at the Starbucks with Carlos Vela. And I wanted to see what they were drinking. You're drinking a double soy latte with extra foam. But, what kind of coffee is he? Or is he just straight coffee black?
He was drinking a Tetra shot. A Tetra shot espresso with salt because he doesn't, a man like that doesn't need sugar for anything.
Yeah, but there's going to be two friendlies in the U.S. So that
what shocking development.
Shocking development, and so he's doing the press conference for that, and he's taking advantage to talk to the LA-based players, which is the Dos Tragos or Dos Antros brothers, Gio and Jonathan, and then of course Carlitos Vela, who I still would say he's easily top 3 most talented Mexican player right now in La Selección.
Yeah, there's no question. Let's check and see how they're doing. And at the press conference, he says, just says, you can just go down the list of what every, and not just any Mexican, just any national team, but it seems like it's specifically Mexico national team coach. Yeah. Everyone's available.
Yeah. No. Hey, the other one. No, I do not get told what players to call up.
Right. Of course, I want to play in the best leagues, but as long as they're playing, it's important. Which, of course, will come back to bite him when he will inevitably call up some guy that's getting half mil, whatever it is. So he's already, and of course, whenever a coach says stuff like this, the first time that he contradicts himself will be a major. Well, you said in your first press conference that believe A, B, C, and D, and now you're telling us D, E, F, and G. Yeah. What's going on? Why are you betraying us?
Which is the bad thing. I would say one of my main criticisms of the Mexican media, where it's like they're courting controversy, and I would say the whole that one question about if he's gonna be forced to call up or I forgot the choice of words, but if players are gonna be imposed on him, and it's pretty stupid because that's been the case for a long time, and it happens everywhere. It just because it's a business, and all these teams and clubs, they have sponsors, and a lot of the sponsors, they are tied to certain players as well.
They are. They want.
Yeah.
They
They
want to
want,
see these guys, with when they're practicing,
yeah,
to be wearing the CantinaMX logo on their shirt.
yeah, and if like a company comes, they give a lot of money to the selección or to the club, and they're like, okay, we're gonna sponsor the club, and we also have a sponsorship with this player, and it's let's say it's a 2-year deal, so of course the player has to be there just because, and and there's just a lot of money coming in. That was so I don't know why they act all surprised, you know. Later on, it's they already know they're just trying to have something to later talk about.
Oh
File
yeah,
it in
it's
the
yeah,
it's a slow news day. Let's attack this.
exactly, yeah. So Tata Martino, he talks about Carlos Salcedo. Say, well, of course, we want him to play. We want all players to play in the best leagues, but then this is something we talked about last week. Liga MX is not a bad league. It's not that terrible for a player to play and do well in Liga MX. It's okay. Again,
Yeah.
people get caught up on this whole Europe thing,
Hey.
and yes, I agree. It'd be great for Mexican players to play in Europe, but when we have 90 Mexican players playing in Europe, then I think it'd be great. But when you only have a dozen,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah, it won't make that much of a difference. And I'm gonna continue beating the dead horse and say that staying behind, like if you stay in the Mexican league, because people, they try to say you have to leave at a younger age. But I would say, like, even if you do stay a bit longer, you don't necessarily doesn't mean you're gonna turn out to be a bad player. So Chicharo is one of the best examples. He went directly to EPL, and he had like a 20 goal season that first year, and now we're seeing the same with Raúl, who left at like 23, and right now he's one of the top players in the EPL as well.
right. And then
You
and,
know.
and, and if you're gonna make the jump when you're that young, don't make the jump to Turkish soccer or to. I mean, I would even say, I know that the Chico Lozano's over in Holland, but I mean, to me, if you're going to go to the Dutch league, go when you're 17. Don't go when you're 22.
Yeah. Yep.
So, I know that Carlos Salcido, that I think Carlos Salcido was much better than playing in Eindhoven, and I could say the same thing for Massa Rodriguez and even Hector Moreno. He went over when he was 19, and he had a decent career, and in all fairness to him, had he not been injured in the 2014 World Cup, there's no doubt in my mind that he would
Yeah.
have made a huge jump
Well,
from Espanyol to wherever it was that he was going to end
yeah.
up
And,
playing.
just continue with beating the dead horse. Uh, a good example, another good example we've seen of players leaving to Europe at a later age and still doing really good. And I'm gonna mention Pavel Pardo and it was is it Osorio? I
Ricardo
keep
Sorio, yeah.
Ricardo Osorio. Yeah, I keep confusing them because JCO and others. But those two guys went to Stuttgart and they won a
They won the
Bundesliga,
Bundesliga, yeah, they did.
which is impressive because that's Stuttgart's. You haven't heard much of them even in recent years. It's always Bayern and Dortmund, and for them to have won it, and Pardo just had like his performances were well, and but a lot of fans seem to forget that.
No, yeah, exactly. I mean, and again, Mexican players obviously have the talent, but there's a couple of things. First of all, you know, getting the European passport is huge.
Yeah, he has become
and
more. Yeah,
and secondly, they're just not going to give up a foreign spot willy nilly. I mean, you have to be really, 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 really good. So there's a lot of Argentines, Uruguayans, even Brazilians. They all in the Magic League are able to come up with the European passport, which makes it much easier for them to travel abroad and play abroad and earn a living abroad, which is not necessarily the
yeah.
case
They
for Mexico.
no, and you know what? If you look at a lot of the extranjeros that end up in Mexico, a lot of them had been in Europe 1 or 2 years and ended up coming back, just to
Right.
highlight how difficult it could be a lot of times. Because a lot of these guys are very talented, just because they didn't make it in whatever team they were, doesn't mean that they sucked.
I mean, the
It's
latest example is Nico Castillo.
yes,
Chilean, plays at Pumas for a season and a half. Does well, goes to Benfica. He was on the Chilean national team. Doesn't last 4 months in Benfica. Now he's in America, and people say, "Well, he was an idolo at Pumas." Like, let's pump the brakes. He did nothing. Yeah, he scored some goals at Pumas, but
yeah.
win a championship, and Dario Verón is an idolo. Tuca is an idolo. Nico Castillo was just the guy that played at Pumas. Let's slow down on the term. Yeah, I mean, who was it? Like they were trying to. Johnny Rico was trying to say that Moises Munoz was an idolo at America. Because the guy's like, why? What did he ever do to be an idolo at America? It's like
he just had that one, you know, with the Cruz Azul when he had the one header that
there's an autogol that is credited to him.
It's a memorable match. But for me, I just wanted to highlight how, like, the Mexican fans, how they don't judge the players by the same how do you say, by the same standards.
Criteria,
because,
sure.
Yeah, because you see a Mexican coming back, like Carlos Salcedo, or even like Vela or whoever, and they say their career is over. And Liga MX is filled with with South Americans that came back from Europe, but we don't say the same thing about those players. We don't say, hey, their career is over. Why are we getting this guy? He didn't make it in Europe. Why? He's useless now.
Nico Castillo's career is over.
Yeah, but a lot. If you go down the list, you're gonna see a lot of them were like at least a year in Europe. If you check with a lot of these guys, a lot of them even just because they left at a very young age, we tend to forget. But a lot of the Sudamericanos that are in Liga MX have been in Europe, which was the case for a long time. Cardoso was, I think, he was in Switzerland, Grasshoppers or something like that, or Zurich.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, and dude, that guy was just phenomenal. And I'm sure, and it's just the breaks, because sometimes you're gonna end up just in the wrong club for a lot of, with the wrong teammates or the wrong coach who's gonna have some tactics that won't benefit you. There's so many things that could go wrong and lead to a lot of players not doing as good as they can.
Now, speaking of as you know, I'm an unbiased outside observer of the Chivas phenomenon. And by the way, they had the Super Bowl over the week.
They did.
This past week, it was awful. And I made a comment that it was watching the Super Bowl was like watching Chivas play under Matias Almeida.
Oh man, at a home game, a low-scoring home game under Mati.
Exactly. Yeah, just really tough to watch. And of course, the Chivas faithful, like, how dare you criticize the greatest coach we've ever had, or whatever it is.
San Matias.
Exactly.
Hey, you have to hand it to that guy.
People then said, it's obvious that this is an Americanista podcast. That's the thing. There's no way in any dimension or world that this is an Americanista podcast. I just want to throw that out there. But I will say, excuse me, that with Chivas drawing Veracruz, lowly Red Sharks Veracruz, team that is like 5 or 6 games away from being relegated. And this was, of course, after Chivas had won 3 games in a row, and
Yes.
people were already anointing them the next champion. Well, now they want, after one draw at home, now they want to get rid of Cardoso because it's just not the right fit. So my question to Chivas fans is like, really, guys? I mean, can you guys not be so bipolar?
Yeah, it's a bit exaggerated. Veracruz, I agree. It's lowly red sharks, but we did mention here at the start of the season, they have a phenomenal coach. He's Siboldi. To me, he's gonna win a few more titles, and he's bound to get. He's showing that he's willing to work. That's why I think he took Veracruz. He left. He left Santos, and even though it was under bad terms, he did not badmouth anyone. He did not air any dirty laundry, which
No.
Mati did. Mati just he went screaming and kicking.
Mati was like a lavandera in the Ariel commercials.
He was like Lady Mati.
Yeah.
Lady Mati. You're like Lady Machina. But this Siboldi, man, he's been around. He's been around the block. He knows how things work in Mex, and he kept it quiet. He saw a team like Veracruz, like, well, you know what, whatever. He took that team despite, it might be a botch in his record. Some might see it that way, But people forget, because I don't think a lot of people remember how Piojo had a team relegated. So, so people are going to forget down the line he was at Veracruz. But, I mean, I think in the long run it helps him, It helps him just in his career, and he's.
Well, didn't Piojo descend with Veracruz? Did he descend?
Was it Veracruz? Was it Tecos? I think it was Tecos.
I thought it was both. It was both.
Both.
It was both.
That's. He had 2, but it helps build. As as a coach, it helps build character and everything. That you've been in a relegation battle. It adds to the experience.
Well, yeah, I mean, any time that you, as a coach, if you experience both ends of the business, what I mean by that is, obviously, if you're experiencing championship, you win a championship, it helps. But I think, yeah, as you said, is equally as valuable, because if you're able to survive, relegation is a. I don't have to tell you, as a Chivas fan, you had to deal with it for 3 years with
Yeah.
I had to deal with it, but Pumas is on the precipice of having to deal with it again. I mean, it is not. I mean, it is every game. Every game is a final. I mean, you're in a 17 or a 34-week liguilla, basically. It is tough. It is absolutely tough. And one thing I will say about Siboldi, like you said, is that he's doing what you're supposed to do, getting you're getting the draws on the road. But one thing that he has done, Joel, is he's got himself a young goalkeeper who is turning a lot of heads.
Oh yeah.
And to the point where this guy could be the heir apparent for as the next man up, because you have Memo Ochoa, who's going to be in his 30s. Corona is in his late 30s, and this guy is.
Isn't Ochoa already in his 30s?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Okay.
This guy is impressive, and
yeah.
I can't remember what the dude's name is. I'm trying to find it right here. But it's yeah. So if Veracruz ends up going down, which is very possible, and I'm sure at this point very likely, but there's no guarantee that they're actually going to go down because of the crazy weird.
Yeah, you could pay
Ocean.
They,
Yeah,
they could pay to remain. Memo is 33. So he might still play 2 more World Cups. Memo, he might be the next Conejosaurus Rex.
Well, he's already been. He had 06, and he had 10 and 40. Yeah, so he's going to go to his. He could make his 6th World Cup.
Wow, that'd be a record. Yeah, record setting 6 copas. Doesn't sound as what would they call La Tota man, what was that nickname he had? Is it just 5 copas? I thought he had another nickname. El Six. But yeah, Memo could definitely be doing that. Would be the record. I don't think no one has done more than 5. Yon, are you there?
I'm still here. I'm trying to find this cat's name. This goalkeeper.
Man, Veracruz still has Meliton, which they were calling them Maleton. Meliton had like a couple good seasons, and he got capped for the Moleros. But then he kept messing up, so his nickname became Maleton. El Maleton. Is it right. Sebastián Jurado?
But he's done very well. He's done very well for himself.
Yeah, it is Sebastián. He's being called the sensation of the league. El joven Sebastián Jurado es seguido en lupa por parte del cuerpo técnico de la selección nacional.
Well, there you go. There you have it. Next Gold Cup. Next Gold Cup.
He might get called up to play Chile and Paraguay. So, yeah, how old is this guy? He's 21. He debuted last year in the cup game.
Have it.
Yeah.
So Joel, so back to Chivas. So Chivas, they win their first 3 games. They tie Veracruz. And then, why is it that the fans then just automatically want to? They had one bad result, and that bad result is enough for them to say, okay, that's it, we're done. No más.
No más. I think the media.
Why are they so?
I blame the media, John. Because, and especially the Mexican media, a lot of yellow journalism, they like to just exaggerate everything, and a lot of times when I hear fans talking, it's a lot of reflection of what was said in some programs like Fútbol Picante and such, and of course they need to sensationalize everything. So I do think that's part of it. Fans keep hearing certain things repeat over and over, and then they just start believing them. This Chivas team a lot of its players are fairly young, and a lot of them are still new to the team. They just arrived this season. They're not even. They're just a couple months in. Players like Alexis Vega, it takes a while to settle down. So it's still a work in progress, huh?
They're 2 points from first place.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. They're 1 point. 1 point. 1 point from first place.
Yeah.
First place, and they're already calling for the coach's head. I mean, I might understand this if Chivas has won championships consistently, every 2 years, every other year. But the reality is that Chivas has been spectacularly average for the better part of both your life and my life, and that's just the reality.
It is, and just to say about Cardoso, he's shown improvement. So his first season, even though the team did not qualify, he did better numbers than Matias did in Matias' previous 2 seasons.
Not San Mati. the
Yeah, but
greatest coach in Chivas
Mati
history.
gets forgiven because he would do good in the cup games. So people would forget, like he would lose a game in the league, and then like he would win a midweek against like Cangrejos or whatever at the Zombie Life, you know, and then it's like it will soften the blow of not, and then you look at the end of the season and it was like 0 wins at home for Liga MX games, and no one would bat an eye, which is very surprising. Matias is I'm a bit fascinated, He has quite the personality. Even in San Jose already, he's drawing the crowds. The Mexican followers have come out in droves.
Well, he
You,
looks he
you
looks
see a
like
lot of them wearing Chiva jerseys, huh?
he looks like Captain Caveman.
I don't know, man. He's he just I
Capitan.
think he's just magnetic personality.
Well, I'll tell you what.
Just
I think I know. I can. I mean, aside from winning the championship, which, again, I think that, But here's the thing: why do they deify Mati and they don't deify Chepo or even Tuca? Because they did the same thing.
yeah.
Why aren't they
Well,
held in such high regard?
yeah, I think Mati got lucky that he came in at the right moment when Liga MX brought up all these cups like Supercopa and Copa MX, and he came
Right.
in at this moment where a lot of Liga MX teams weren't even taking these tournaments serious. They were just playing them because they had to, and he won these tournaments, and you know, they made him look way better than he did with the
Well,
whole he won
I,
5 cups, huh?
I can pinpoint exactly the moment when Chiva Hermanos will hold Mati in their hearts forever. It's the picture after they beat Tigres in the league final, and instead of holding the trophy or hugging his family, he's holding a goat.
Which someone brought in, right? Someone took it into
baby
the
goat, a baby goat, a kid. That is the moment where
yeah,
when like you had me at the goat, you had me at the goat. That's what set Chivas fans over the top.
And he said some stuff that like stuck with the fans. Like he said, I'm gonna awaken a giant, and he was gonna tattoo the club's crest, which he didn't. He tattooed a phallic looking trophy, which is like, hey, I didn't forget. You said the crest, dude. That's not what you got.
Nope.
But yeah, he won, and where it's like Copa MX, you don't always play the best teams because the top teams of the previous season go to the CONCACAF. So it makes it more easier to win.
Well, I will say this: had it not been for his agent, who strapped, as you pointed out, airing dirty laundry.
Yeah.
And saying the quiet stuff loud about I firmly believe that cost him a real opportunity of at least getting an interview for the national team job.
Did and also landing another team, because I know he could have landed a pretty good team in Liga MX. There was some of the clubs that say were interested in him, but I would say like Mati's also to blame because he probably gave the okay, and this is something he did in Argentina as well. He did it when he was at River Plate, and he got sacked. He got sacked from River Plate, and he before the club even announced it, one of the newspapers was already talking about it. So Matiz had obviously leaked the info, and he had also given like that's how I know it was him, because he gave like an interview. This is before the club made it official, and he's talking about, I didn't get a chance. They just called me on the phone, to say that, you know, they weren't going to renew my contract or whatever. I'm like, you know, you're kind of messing up right there, you know?
Yeah, no, it's. I mean, and if that's the case, then then maybe things work out the best for him, and he'll be
Yeah,
at San Jose. Now
well, and you know what? It's kind of the history repeated
and
itself
maybe
because
on a
what?
MLS team here in Austin.
Yeah, no, but I mean, what
And
happened to Mate in Argentina? He did not land another first division team. He had to go back to second. So it kind of
right.
similar now, where he didn't land a team or a national team or go to Europe. He had to come down to MLS. You're
As we
breaking.
wrap up as we wrap up, there's a new MLS team that's coming to Austin. They're going to start playing in 2021, and the rumor is that the Austin FC team are going to make a very strong push to lure Pio Herrera.
What? Piojo Herrera? No way, man. He's not leaving Coapa.
I'm just telling you what I've heard.
They're gonna have to drive a little truck filled with money because he's not leaving the eagle's nest. He's gonna stay there because he knows that one, he's in the club of pretty much the organization that runs the whole of Mexican football, and two, he's like in a great position to return to the national team, which I know is one of his.
Right.
I know that's what he wants, like in his heart.
He is first man up.
He wants round 2 with that selección, and I could see him doing a second World Cup just like Vasco did.
Oh, there's no question, and I do think, and we've talked about this in the past. If Tata Martino does not work out for Mexico, then I firmly believe, and I think that you also firmly believe this,
yes,
that Piojo will step in without any problem.
He's already, which is one of the things we've told a lot of Americanistas about Piojo. You know because they didn't seem to want him, but he's already one of their historic coaches. He's like in 3rd or 4th place of wins. He has 100 wins
right.
with America. Only above him is like 112 and 133. Which, if he stays, if he stays, he's gonna surpass that. So he's in line to being, America's most winning coach. Maybe not championship-wise, but highest rated of wins. So I mean, take that, Piojo hating Americanistas.
Yeah, it's something that it's like, if you don't want him, I will take him in a heartbeat.
Oh yeah, man. Any team would want it. Yeah. He's arguably the best Liga MX coach right now. Numbers wise, it's just between him and Tuca.
Right.
And then if Rey Maidas returns, but those would be the top 3.
And then of course, the sad news over the week was that the Puebla. And again, I think of the mindset, when I was in school, so draw a decision tree to come to the blah blah blah. What decision tree was drawn for the Camoteros to say we need to get rid of Ojitos Mesa and replace him with Chelis so he can come and fail for the 4th time here at Puebla?
My probably just knowing Liga MX and how it works, a lot of times this is linked to promoters. So the promoter will be like, okay,
this happened. This is official. It's done.
No, I know. I understand. But I'm saying a lot of times it's if like a promoter would be like, okay, put my guy, and then I could get you these players. But
Well,
bring
his
in,
guy is Carlos Hurtado.
yeah, because remember what happened. I mean, we saw it similar with Wolves. You know, Jorge Mendes brings in his coach to Wolves, and then
There's
he
like
brings
10 Portuguese dudes on Wolves.
yeah, and then he brings his players. So I do. I mean, from watching Club de Cuervos and
Right.
and being seeing Liga MX for all these years, I do think that's part of it, where it's like a promoter just made the push and is like, look, I could get you these players. I'll bring them in maybe next season, but get my guy in there and I'll hook you up.
And let's
And
not forget, Joel, that Carlos Hurtado used to have his hooks in the Cruz Azul pretty deep.
he
And I'm sure
did.
Ricardo Peláez came in and said, no más. So he's looking for a new team
Oh yeah,
to infiltrate.
yeah, and well, Cruz Azul is interesting because that's another coach who seems to be on the ropes. Uh, is Caixinha. So who knows what's gonna happen there? I've yet to hear Pelaez make any statement because the team has been floundering. They just haven't been as dominant as they were last season.
Well, I mean,
So
again, they're only 4 points out of first place.
I
You
know,
know,
but
they win 3 in a row and they'll be in first place
they
like
will
that.
be back. I know, but the pressure is just so much. It's a bit unjust, but there's just so much pressure on that team to succeed. I
Well,
would put it right
I'm
up
not gonna
there
lie.
with. I think it's between them and Monterrey where it's the most pressure to just do good. You know.
Well, the pressure right now for this podcast to do well tonight is soccer.
I missed what you said, John. You cut off.
What I said was that the pressure's gotten is too much for me on this podcast.
Oh,
That I'm gonna have to stop. I'm gonna have to stop and get some kolaches so that I can regroup and then
yes.
finish strong. So I'll be doing that for 45 seconds or so. And then if you
Okay.
don't hear me, that's that is what is going to happen. And I don't think anybody else
Yeah.
has hopped on yet. Oh, and I don't have to. I'll take a look here.
Any of the cantineros? Any of the cantineros has hopped on, or
It's just you and me so far.
yeah, some
You know,
guys went missing. Rigo disappeared out of the interwebs. He went into
yeah,
the dark
he's
web
pretty
or
gone.
something. He was last spotted with the Chiva del Norte guys. Maybe he said something they didn't agree with, and they made him sleep with the fishes. Something's
Had to
going
be
on.
eradicated. Yeah, of course, Profe Camarayas, he was insistent on being on tonight. He might be listening. I don't know, but because
Yeah.
usually every time we talk bad about Matias, he was like Fernando with La Volpe, just his
Yeah.
ears perk up, and he automatically has to come on. But
It's like summoning Beetlejuice. Or you say
exactly,
Matias 3 times and Prophet would appear.
that's that is exactly right now. But I'm about to stop here, Juan. So it might be a good chance for you to gonna do just a little week recap of the week and why isn't this light not changing? And the what's coming up, and then we have a couple of other topics that we can finish when I get back in the car. Namely, we're going to talk about the Liga MX Femenil and the
Yeah.
payments that were made by some of the teams and what they want to do, of course. And then we can always talk about the another aspect with Tata Martino is his in the press conference, he said that everyone's available, and I think it's going to be pretty obvious for just in reading between lines that his Gold Cup squad is going to be 100% absolutely loaded with, because he has to go for it. So it wouldn't shock me if in the Gold Cup we see the team that is 100%, the European, just as strong a team as Mexico could have, because he needs to win that tournament.
Yes.
So, have you ever been like late at night at a four-way light, and like the lights aren't synced up, and they're just not? Oh, there we go. Finally, green light. Good Lord.
No, I haven't, sir. I have not been.
Chingao, here I am trying to get won't work, and I finally went off, and I was about to run the light. You don't. But no, it was. But it finally did change, and of course, all the cops are at the. Wouldn't you know it? They're at the Kalachi stop. So I'll go ahead and do these, Joel, and then we'll come back and we'll finish the podcast strong, and I'll get my energy back and relieve the pressure of doing the podcast here. So I will turn you loose.
Okay. Starting now.
Go ahead.
Well, let's just take a quick look at the standings, which we have Rayados de Monterrey at first place. Not very surprising. This team has been pushing for a league title for the past 2 to 3 seasons. Well, since Turco was there, when they actually lost two finals. But they've continued to invest, and they recently brought in Layun. So I think out of the top 3 most expensive transfers, Monterrey has 2 of them, and they are in first place. And surprisingly, in second is Necaxa. Sort of came out of nowhere, and they're in second place despite having played a game less. They only have 4 games out of 5 match weeks, and they only trail Monterrey by 1 point. It's a pretty tough. I would say close. It's a very close right now race, because what separates pretty much first from 7th, which 7th place would be León. It's only 3 points, and then from 11th, which would be Pachuca, that's 4 points. So it's going to be if things hold up, it should be a very tight race for the Liguilla. But I think as the league, as more games are played, I do think some of the stronger teams are going to pull through, at least the top 4, and then from 5th to 8th, we might see a big group of teams fighting it out. Should be a pretty good battle royale right there. But Necaxa, man, that's pretty impressive. And then you have Tigres in 3rd. And perhaps even more impressive is Atlas, because they're in 4th. This is a team that didn't spend much money in transfers, but they've been winning. They've got 3 wins, 1 draw, and 1 loss. But they are in 4th. They're actually right now just on a, I would say, goal differential. They're above Chivas, who are in 5th, and then you have Club America in 6th. But America, like Necaxa, has 1 game less. And they have 9 points. And if they make their game up, they could very easily take first place and just reinforce the club with 2 pretty good signings, Benedetti and who will bolster the team's attack. And then we have León, followed by Lobos Buap, which is, whoa, man. Lobos in 8th. That's impressive. Impressive for Lobos. And then we see the drop. Some of these teams that last season were were stronger. Santos ninth, Cruz Azul in 10th, which is, yeah, it's not where the fans want to see this team, and they're going in panic mode just because they've been frustrated for so long. So it's they call him Frust Azul. So that even though it's not that many points, they have 7. That's 4 points. It just it just looks bad being in 10th. It's like having a shiner, you know. And then Pachuca right below them. That's another team that invested heavily, and I know they want to be higher up. And Toluca. So Toluca, they're saying Cristante is on the ropes. We might see the return of Chep Guardiola right there. Chepo de la Torre. He might go back. He had already won 2 league titles with the Diablos Rojos, and that could be a team that would be willing to pay. He's one of the better earning coaches in Liga MX. So that's where I expected him to land anyways. And then you have Cholos in 13th, Puebla in 14th, and then Monarcas in 15th. Monarcas haven't been doing that good, and it's unfortunate because part of the reason is the directiva. They just haven't. They sold some of their better players, like Peruvian international Ruidas, and they haven't really brought anyone to reinforce the team. And then just recently, the club directors, they said that half of the squad of Monarcas has been extortioned by I don't know who exactly, probably cartels or just random thugs, but it's a problem, and I think it's happened before. It's not that surprising. It to know that it is surprising to hear Directivo openly talk about it, though. Throughout the years, we've seen like, for example, um, Ruben Omar Romano was kidnapped when he was at Cruz Azul, and he was like held hostage for like a month. And then
and don't forget, Joel, that when Indios, the Ciudad Juarez was in the league,
yes,
several Colombian players sent their families back because it was safer to be in Medellin than it was to be in Ciudad Juarez.
yeah, Juarez is the Wild West, man. And someone that just passed away was Pablo Larios Iwasaki, and his daughter had been kidnapped a while back. So I mean, you could go down the list and you see all these things that are fairly common in Liga MX, and for example, just what happened with Rafa Marquez not too long ago. He was almost kicked out of the World Cup, and he was involved with some extra cancha activities with some cartel guy funding some of his businesses. So, and just to point on that, that's why I feel a lot of these Mexican players returning for Europe. That's why they ultimately choose. The majority will choose like MLS, just because you avoid that. And I could see Chicharo. That's why I could see Chicharo coming back here, especially now that he's having a kid with his Australian wifey. I could see him. He's gonna raise a family, and he's gonna want to avoid some of these shenanigans. So then on 16th is Pumas Unam, and yeah, Pumas hasn't been doing too good.
They got a big point though. Down a man and playing at home against Monterrey.
Against Monterrey, that is true. They did. And was this under their new coach, Bruno Marioni?
That is correct.
Yes, their new boss. And then Veracruz 17th, and in last place is Querétaro, man. Querétaro, who had last season sneaked into the Liguilla, and they're coached by one of our favorite coaches here, Rafa Puente Jr., who we have pegged for he should land the selección maybe sometime in the next 10 years. But he hasn't been doing too good. And I'll say Querétaro is a bit similar to Monarcas, those teams that just didn't invest. They did not invest a lot of money. John, did we talk about Larios? Because he recently passed away. And
We have not.
yeah, Larios Iwasaki. He was Campos credits him with being his tutor. I would say his mentor. Being his mentor and having learned a lot from him. And Iwasaki, if I'm not, his mom was Japanese, so it was Pablo Larios Iwasaki. And if I'm not mistaken, because he was the goalkeeper for the 1986 World Cup. He would have
Yes, he was.
most likely been the 1990 World Cup and Mexico not gotten kicked out. But John, correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't he playing in second division when the World Cup came around?
I am, honestly, I don't remember, but I remember him. I want to say he came out of Zacatepec. And I want to say he even played for like Coyotes Nesa. He played for a bunch of random teams. That's why it was so surprising. I mean, he was terrific, don't get me wrong. And he ended up playing for some pretty big teams. And he was on the losing end of one of Chivas' championships, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, yeah, you have to take it there, Arion.
But no, what I'm saying is that Chivas didn't Chivas beat his Toros Nesa team when Tuca won the championship in '97. I think Larios was the goalie for
oh wow,
Toros Nesa at the time. But
yeah, he was.
That's what was so surprising.
He was at Nesa. You're correct.
Yeah. Was that he wasn't from a big team, and at the time, Cruz Azul had Miguel Marin and America had Gato Chavez, and so there really wasn't. I mean, outside of Olaf Heredia and Pilar Reyes, who had a terrible World Cup in '78, there just weren't that many good Mexican goalkeepers, and Olaf Heredia, for years was the best Mexican goalie, at least in the early part of the '80s, and so for Larios to beat him out, and then and you have to remember, Olaf Heredia was Bora's goalie at Pumas, so kind of like what Memo did to Moises, and in 2014, where he beats out the coach's favorite son. That's what Pablo Larios did, and he ended up having a pretty spectacular World Cup. He only allowed 2 goals in the 5 games that they played, which is really good. I mean, that's outstanding. And Jorge Campos just this past week, in addition to saying that he was his mentor, said that he was the best Mexican goalkeeper in history, and that's high praise coming from a guy who I would probably consider the best Mexican goalkeeper in history.
Yeah, he credited a lot to him, and he was fairly young. He was 58. He was 58 when he passed away.
And he just didn't look like a goalkeeper,
He wouldn't, yeah.
Yeah, it was just so he was. I was, again, just sad to see him go. But I mean, I do have a lot of really good memories of him in that. I mean, he made some pretty big saves in that World Cup. It's a picture that we tweeted out on the Cantina account. And one of the lasting memories of that World Cup was, Schumacher, who was such a villain in the 1982 World Cup when he, for lack of a better word, just completely demolished the French player Battiston. I mean, knocked them out cold. When Battiston had a one-on-one breakaway, and Schumacher made no attempt to play the ball at all, just wiped this guy out, just totally went into his head with his hip, just knocked him, knocked some teeth out, and he didn't even get a yellow card for it. I mean, and he was just this awful villain, the absolute villain of the 1982 World Cup. This happened in semifinal in France. For Schumacher to then, in the quarterfinal against Ugo, when Ugo was cramped up, had the the sportsmanship and the good sense to help Hugo out with his cramps, help stretch out his cramps, at one end of the field. And then after the penalty shootout, when, Germany's wins, the German players are celebrating, Schumacher goes up to Barrios and like, dude, congratulate you guys. You guys gave us a hell of a game. You went so far. It was a great moment. And it's tough to see, when as you get older, to see these guys that you look up to are starting to die and fall off. It's tough to take. And you're right. At 58, it was way too young.
No, I just checked, and he was indeed playing in second division when he called up to play the 1986 World Cup. Oh man, I scrolled past it. I was looking at a picture of him with Toros Neza. That Toro Neza team, if you guys have never seen them play, we have a lot of younger viewers. This is Toro Neza going back into the late 90s. They were just a phenomenal team to watch. They had Piojo in defense. They had Turco, right there pulling the strings. And yeah, man, to have Pablo Larios at the pole, that team even that much more epic. And they would score some awesome goals. If you could YouTube some of their goals, there's a goal they scored where there was like 3 or 4 back heel passes in a row. It's one of the most memorable goals I've ever seen. Just like 3, 4 in a row. And that's you could see some pretty cool stuff. And this Toros Neza team was just a fun team to watch. One time they marched into the field, they were all wearing Halloween masks. And then another time they all dyed their hair blonde. The majority, at least, a good 85%. A good, and Larios, man, he participated. Piojo didn't, but his hair was already ginger, so he probably didn't have to. This was quite the team, man, and this Toros Neza team also got into a pretty like battle royale match with the Jamaica national team. They played a friendly, a lot of hacking went on, and then it started into a fight. And I think there was even sticks and rocks involved. It was quite the brutal fight. So yeah, this team is gone but not forgotten. At least not from the Cantina archives.
Well, according to this, Joel, he was Cruz Azul's goalkeeper during the '86 World Cup.
Oh, really? Man,
yeah.
Internet lying to me. But he was in second division when he got called up to the national team.
Yeah, because he started off at Zacatepec, so I believe that they had descended at that time.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, but because see, from my report, it says hasta la fecha fue el único jugador que estuvo en la selección mexicana de fútbol pesa militar en un equipo de segunda división. Okay, so it just says he got called up, but he was. I got confused. I don't know why I got confused and thought he went to the World Cup. But we haven't seen that since, second division player get called up.
Well, the closest we
get is we might have to. The closest we've gotten is Kikín Fonseca, who got plucked out of second division into Pumas, and then quickly made his way into the selección.
The biggest part of any player, at least in the 21st century. Just an absolutely fantastic teammate. One of my favorite national team players of all time, Kiki. You never had to worry about Kiki not giving his all when he played for the national team. Very, very happy. So we talked about the extortion, Joel, and with Morelia. Just one of the reasons, people ask, why is it so hard for, Mexican teams to attract decent, not just South American talent, but decent European or African, whatever it is. That's Exhibit A right there, because of stuff like that.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate, and it's one of the things that holds back Liga MX from growing, and it's also one of the reasons why, like for Mexico fans, when they see that the league is like trying to have like tournaments, because one of the tournaments that got announced is a cup tournament with MLS teams, and I see a lot of like retaliation from fans. Just they hate the idea. They're saying, how is it gonna benefit? Well, it's gonna benefit a lot, because if these tournaments are taken serious and played, that's a lot of more. That's TV money that comes in, more sponsorships, more gate money. Is that's what the teams need ultimately to operate. They need to have more finances, and but one thing that we can't deny is that how much MLS has been improving throughout the years, and
Sure.
and so we see these teams like Atlanta and LAFC, and how much money they poured into those clubs, and the type of stadiums they have, and the players that they're bringing in, and you're comparing them to, like in Mexico, to the Veracruz and Lobos Buap, and it's like, man, Liga MX would love to have a LAFC type franchise come into the club and come into the league and pour that type of money into it. But I do feel one thing we're gonna see pretty soon, and we're already seeing it, but I think we're gonna feel it more. It's gonna be MLS beating out Liga MX to some of the better South American talent.
But something that I've said on this show, and until I'm blue in the face, at what point, what happens to the rivalry of the league rivalry when MLS starts signing better South American players than Liga MX, because that day is coming, and that day is a lot closer than people think.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, Ridas to me was a great talent, and it surprised me that he ended up coming to MLS instead of, I pictured him going to a Cruz Azul or something like that, staying in Liga MX, and to see him to stay in Liga MX and to see him come to MLS was like, it was a bit of a surprise to me. He seemed to check all the boxes.
Right.
Peruvian international. He's consistent. He was scoring some great goals, and he ended up over there. And they bought that one player. What was it? Almiron from River Plate. What's Atlanta paid like $15 million?
Yeah, they sold him to Newcastle.
Oh yeah. Well, they sold him for like 20-something million.
Yep.
Yeah, and I haven't seen Liga MX sell for an extranjero to Europe for that amount.
Yeah, Nico Castillo did not go for that much to Benfica. Let's just.
I don't think there's ever been a player that the Liga MX has sold. So I mean that's saying a lot. And the other team that's the new, I think there's a Miami franchise, and they're looking to also, splash the cash. And then just recently, I think Marco Fabian could make a move to the Philadelphia Union.
Yeah, that is the rumor. Yeah, and you're right. The Inter de Miami. Miami is the South American capital of the world.
Oh,
and how many European soccer players spend their summers in Miami? I mean, they love Miami.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, one thing that I heard from when I keep forgetting, what's the name of that player that Atlanta signed from River Plate right after the Libertadores final. I forget his name, but teams from they beat out teams from like Spain and Italy for his signature because they weren't willing to. They wanted to sign the player for much less, and MLS just they just opened the checkbook, and so that was the president of River Plate was talking about how they're like establishing, you know, they're gonna establish some type of like a I don't know how you say it. I don't know if it's a convenio, but some type of partnership with the league where they're gonna, start sending more and more talent. And so that's.
They look at Atlanta United. Atlanta United is owned by the guy who owns Home Depot, Arthur Blank.
Well,
would you rather go into business with that guy, or would you rather go into the business of the guy who owns Grupo Imagen?
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, and just for more clarity, like last World Cup, pretty much Selección had 3 players, MLS-based players in the squad. That's just something we wouldn't think about. And then our current coach came from MLS. So I mean, man, you could still hate the league, but don't downplay it. Don't downplay it because you're just being how do you say it, Jon? I'll say delusional. Yeah, you're just fooling yourself, man. And I think for me, one of the exciting thing is that if it opens the door to go to the stadium and see some great matchups.
Well, it's not just that. If I'm a Mexican player and I'm at Necaxa and I'm pretty good, but there's a promoter who has I want to know, how it is that all of a sudden there was like 40 Chileans in the Liga MX, like from one year to the next. Obviously,
yeah,
promoters involved. So the promoters would rather, like you said, they make more money when they bring these guys in. The promoter does than with the local guys. So if I'm in Necaxa, I'll say, man, I'm 21 years old. My contract is up. I'm pretty good. I start to get, but they're not going to give me a chance because they're going to, they got to, they have this. So why wouldn't I look at MLS? Why wouldn't that be an option? And I think that that's going to happen more and more and more. And I know that MLS. But they say, well, how many Mexican? The reality about Mexican players in MLS is that there have been more misses than hits, and that's just the truth.
Well,
Rafa it didn't work out. Giovanni, who is getting paid $6 million a year, is about to be asked to take either take a major pay cut or say sayonara. And again, Giovanni's been there for going on 4 years now.
Wow.
It's not like he was terrible the whole time.
Yeah.
But Carlos Vela obviously has done well. Cuauhtemoc did well, but Luis Landin was terrible.
Claudio Suarez did well. Claudio Suarez did good.
He did.
Yeah, Campos did good too.
But what was the guy? What was the Loco's name? And Loco, what was his?
Oh, Loco Garcia.
Loco Garcia.
Loquito Garcia. He did. He did good. Like his first 2 seasons, because I was covering Chivas USA. I was doing I covered them for the whole season, and he did well up until they came to scout him from PSV, and then he just shit the bed. He had a terrible game, and then after that, he went to Tigres. He got brought back,
right.
And he never was able to crack into the first team, man, and he just disappeared. He disappeared, but
they've added a team in Nashville. They're adding a team in Cincinnati. They're adding a team in Austin.
Man.
And to me, Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's going to be so many opportunities. I mean, if I'm a young Mexican player and you know who's talented enough, but it isn't getting shots to play, I mean, why wouldn't I look at MLS?
And you know,
So
and well, that's also what leads to the importance of someone like Dennis to close going into the Galaxy. And I think that's one of the things he's gonna do is try to recruit some of these young players. So so Galaxy, for example, they already have, you know, the Dos Santos brothers, and but they also have two under 20 Mexico internationals. Forget the
right,
names, but they have a goalkeeper, and it's like an attacking player, and
and
he's supposed to
Efrain
be one of the
Alvarez.
best. Yeah, he's supposed to be highly rated. So I mean, they were already under 20, man. You could be talking about soon at the under 20 World Cup or Olympics, and these dudes are MLS based.
Exactly. I mean, so for people to turn their nose at MLS, it's just a big mistake. Now, to me, again, if your end game is for Mexico to do well at international tournaments, the World Cup, whatever, and in your mind, the only way that Mexican players can do well or Mexican teams can do well at these tournaments is they have players possible playing in Europe. If that's your goal, does it matter whether you jump from MLS or from Liga MX? Does it matter?
Yeah. No.
No.
Yeah.
I mean,
What
if
matters?
you want as many Mexicans playing as
Yes.
possible all over the world.
Yeah. That should be the end game. You know, the main thing is to have as many active player as possible, and the saying, the cream rises to the top. Any
Right.
top player, no matter where you at, you're gonna be spotted, and ultimately you'll get a chance to play at a higher level.
Exactly. We're seeing the fruits of the labor with Raul. Tecatito looks like he's finally starting to show his true potential. Chucky Lozano has done it for the past couple of years, even though he's injured right now with a concussion. But we're talking three players out of 11 or 12 or whatever it is that are it's just not enough. Mexican. We need to be talking about 20 players that are just kicking ass and taking names all over the place. And again, for Mexico to, if fans think that Mexico has the wherewithal to compete at an international level with the Belgiums and the Frances and the Germanys and the Italies, yeah, Mexico maybe if they play them 10 times, Mexico might be able to win 3 of them. And I think that that's a very doable. But if you want to win 5 or 6 or 7, you got to have like 80 guys playing in Europe, and that's just the way it is. And the only way that happens is if there are more Mexicans playing in Liga MX and more Mexicans playing wherever they can, where they can make that big side. If that means playing in MLS, what does it matter to you as a Mexican fan? How great would it be, living in Austin, if the big striker from Austin is Fulano de Tal that grew up in Satellite, how I love it. It would be so much fun. And how great would it be for the MLS Liga MX rivalry, where like some of the like Giovanni, it's too bad that Galaxy's kind of fallen off. But I mean, how great would it be to see Giovanni and Jonathan play Club America in the Conca Champions? That'd be really cool. Or to play, Chiva. Giovanni played. He played. I think it was against Morelia or whoever it was. I forget what team it was, or it was Santos actually. Because I remember Dan was at the game, and that was the first time Giovanni had ever played in Liga MX team ever in his career. Think about that. Giovanni's been a national team mainstay since 2008, so going on 10 years, and has never played one Liga MX league game. Same with Carlos Vela and his brother.
Hey, I'm still hoping. I'm still a Gio believer, and I'm hoping he could get his act together, because it's pretty sad to to see his career go down like this. Just because how much he's done for the national team, and how much he's given, and he's just a wonderful talent. So to see him just underperforming, it's pretty sad.
It
I
is, but I
would
mean, the thing is that he's never really been 100% healthy
no,
since he's been at LA Galaxy, and it's always muscle stuff. And when it's muscle stuff, it just means that, frankly, you're not taking care of your body.
yeah. Well, I
And if
mean,
you make a living with your body, that is 100% on him.
at this point now, if that's the case, where he just isn't 100% because some of these players they end up having like injuries that are recurring, and it just it doesn't let them just be at 100%. Um, God, man, it will suck, but it would be better for him to retire than to see him floundering, ending up in playing in small clubs, just
Well, they're
being a
asking him to
shadow of
take a
his
pay
former
cut.
self.
He's making $6 million a year. They want to, they want to take the DP tag off of him and
Yeah,
offer him a much lower salary. And I don't know if Gio's going to want to do that. I mean, again, Giovanni didn't go to LA Galaxy because of what he did at
Villarreal,
Villarreal or
yeah,
at
Tottenham,
Tottenham or
yeah,
Brighton or Bristol or wherever it was that he went.
Barcabe.
Exactly.
But yeah, no, his selección. He's always been a
Santander.
selección standout.
Right.
Um, I, if I'm Gio, I take the cut. Let it fuel you, man. Because I think he could he could still be in the next cycle.
Right.
He could still be in the next selección cycle, and he could close out his career with that. I'm not sure if he would reach the World Cup, but you could still have like a couple international. Well, he's 29, so he still has room to make the World Cup. But even if he doesn't, you could still get a couple good tournaments in there, another Copa America, Gold Cup, whatever it is, and then just sort of leave on a high note. But I would like to see him regain his
His mojo.
his power levels, get him back there up again. He still has a lot to offer, man. 29, Ramos Gio. I hope he does. I hope the close could help right there, man.
Yeah, it's I mean, I don't necessarily think he's had a bad career. I mean, the dude's made $25 million since he's been in LA Galaxy, and again, it was a contract that he was never going to get in any other situation. It wasn't going to happen to Villarreal. It was, maybe either Rayados or America would offer that kind of money, but then he didn't get to live in LA. So, it just
he should be.
I don't fault the guy at all. I just don't.
He should be in his last year of contract with the Galaxy. He signed in 2015.
Now, one thing I will say about Giovanni is that early in his career, when he was in his late teens and early 20s, he made some absolutely terrible mistakes in regard to his career. Whoever was giving him advice gave him terrible
advice. Old man was his agent.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And it just did not work out.
Cicinho.
Because you remember Pep was his youth coach.
Yeah, he was.
And Pep was the one that said you need to go out on loan.
Yeah.
Giovanni was like, no, I don't want to go on loan. Sell me.
I remember that story. Well, from what I remember, what I heard was that so Cicinho was, he had him and his brother, and they were at the Barcelona academy, and Gio was one of the standouts. It was him, Bojan Kirk, I don't know how you pronounce that last name.
Kirkic.
Yeah, some dude, he kind of disappeared, man. So Bojan and Messi and Gio, Gio and Messi were like at the same time they were bringing them up into the first team. But I mean, Messi, of course, more talent. He ended up just earning a spot. Gio didn't yet, and they were like they're gonna bring him back to Barcabe, and he was just gonna get the odd games here and there, and the dad told him to leave, because you're right. They did say, you know what, if you want more playing time, we could send you out on loan, and that's when Rafa Benitez, I couldn't remember his name last time around. Rafa Benitez offered him. He went to Tottenham, and he's like, I'll play you over there, and he
No,
signed him at the
it was
same
Juan
time as
de
Modric.
Ramos.
Oh, it was Ramos. Yeah, good thing you're here.
Juan de Ramos. Yeah, Juan de
Juan de.
Ramos.
Okay, why am I blaming Rafa? Anyway, it's the beer. It's the beer, Yon. Yeah, the guy takes him to Tottenham. They sign him at the same time as Luka Modric, and that dude did not last. What, he was there for like 5 games,
Yeah,
or
and they fired him.
then he got sacked, and along with Juan de, so did Gio, man. They sent him packing too to the lower divisions, and then loaned him out to a second division team, where he did very good. He actually did very good.
Yeah, I
In
remember
that
because
Coca-Cola league.
Roy Keane was his coach, and it was like, this guy's terrific. I cannot believe that why isn't he playing in the first? And it just because he just Redknapp just didn't like him.
Yeah.
And it goes back to what we talk about. Make sure that the coach, if you're going to go to a team, make sure the coach actually wants you.
Yeah, and that coach did want him, but he should have made sure at this point that the directiva was also going to give him. The directiva was going to give him a backing, which is Lainez, which is very important for Lainez, because
right.
the vice president of the club went to Mexico. That's pretty much saying, hey, look, even if the coach leaves, we want you. Even if the coach gets sacked, you're yeah, I mean, you're an integral part of this club. We're gonna do the best to promote you.
And Lainez has gotten some good minutes. He started a couple of games. Didn't play in this last Copa Rey semifinal, but Lainez has some, but he's got a lot of learning to do. And I think the first thing he has to learn is that the Spanish league is a little faster than Liga MX. They don't have to worry about in the Spanish league, playing at altitude one game and at sea level the next.
Or at the heat of the midday heat.
Or in Veracruz, or up in the desert. Mexico for a league has a lot of variation as far as topography and geography.
Yeah. Well,
that's he said Mexico plays slow because we have to.
Yeah.
We have no choice.
Well, that's one of the main points I'm seeing that a lot of journalists, especially, they miss all the time when they start like waxing poetic about some of the Mexican players going abroad, and it's like the faster paced and blah blah. And I'm like, you know what? If some of these teams came and played over here, they wouldn't look that good.
Yeah, they would die.
You just wouldn't be able to keep up. And it's like you said, there's been a lot of like European players that came to MLS, and they've talked about that. Just how it's way different. Everything, the altitudes, the weather, and it's become hard to adapt.
I mean, I would love to see Italy go and play El Salvador in the Cuscatlán. I'm not saying they're going to lose, but if people think they're going to win 5-6-0, it just ain't going to happen. I mean, they're going to be begging for the ref to blow the whistle.
Even like the humidity in like Honduras, man. You go to San Pedro Sula, man.
I mean, they play
in the jungle.
It's 96 degrees.
Well, this is one thing that helped the weather. It's one thing that helped Mexico at the '94 World Cup. they were stuck in the group of death with these three, at the time, very strong European teams. Italy, which went on to play the final against Brazil. They had Norway, which had been one of the more consistent teams throughout qualifiers, and Ireland, and which had a good team at that time, especially if they qualified. Yeah, especially if they qualified from, which was a more tougher, because it was less teams going into the World Cup. So back then, if you qualified, you were pretty good. You don't have to be that good now to qualify. You just have to be good enough. But back then, if you qualify, because it was what it was, in '94, 24 teams, right?
Right.
24 teams that will go to the World Cup, and before that, 16. So that's why sometimes they said that they had better games. But regardless, I would say even at 24, that was some you had some top competition, and that's what helped Mexico in that group, because they were playing some midday games in high heat, and that to me helped them qualify. It slowed down some of these teams there.
Ireland and Orlando, it was like 120 degrees on the field, and I mean the Irish. I mean they're not used to that.
Yeah, some ginger guys.
So for that matter. I mean, but you see that that's what. And I remember South Korea had the same thing with Germany. They played at the Cotton Bowl, where again it was ridiculously hot. Germany goes up 3-0, but they were by the end of the game they had no legs, and South Korea came so close to tying, and even they ended up being 3-2. But I mean, had that game lasted 5 minutes more, they would have equalized Germany easily, because the Germans because back then the only way that the Mexicos and the Koreas and those smaller countries soccer wise could compete with the big boys was to try and outlast them. I mean that's why Mexico, you always said, well, they're one of the best conditioned teams in the world. That they have no choice, because they have to run around so much when they play those games. And so you're absolutely right. I mean, the fact that they played Italy in the heat, I don't think it was as hot against Norway, which they should have won that. I mean,
oh yeah, Sage missed an open net goal
from 2 feet away. He was 2 feet away.
Oh man, yeah. Oh no, it would have been the equalizer, right?
Well, they just had chances all game long. They had chances.
Yeah. Yeah, Saguinho, man.
But he missed from 2 feet. From 2 feet, he missed. Yeah, It ended up not hurting him that much. But you're right, though, and it's So I'm all and I think this is something that even our friend of the show Martinez said, because when he lives in Europe, he said, why is it so hard for Mexico to these are small. Why can't they beat them? It's like you come down to San Pedro Sula and play at 3:00 in the afternoon, where it's 96% humidity, and then tell me how easy it is to win this game.
Yeah, man, it's pretty tough.
That's why. For all of Chepo's faults, and he came so close to. If Chepo beats Honduras, when they were up 2-0, which Chicharito got the 2 goals against Honduras, if they win that game, then Chepo would have coached Mexico in the World Cup.
Well, I thought they got robbed against the U.S. at Azteca, because to me there was two penalty kick calls that the ref did not give right in the box, man. And you're welcome to go review them for our friendly listeners.
I remember.
And it's like just which is pretty unusual, man, for a home game not to get 2 calls. Te paso una, but 2, it's like, oh man, that one that could have made the difference too. That those extra points would have helped.
Of course, yeah. Get 4 extra points. Mexico qualifies easily. They don't have to go through Middle-earth.
Go to Mordor. John, ya se viene mi tiempo.
Very quickly, before we go away, we should mention that the Liga MX Femenil.
Yes.
I think it has done well, and the league should be applauded for starting league. I know that there are teams that are making noise that it may not be as cost effective as they would like it to be, and are hoping to not have to, feel the team as is required right now by CantinaMX, which I understand both sides of the argument. I don't understand why it's up to Liga MX teams to have this league or to have the teams in place. Again, I am a fan of women's sports. I make a living covering women's sports, and again, I have no issue or complaint or problem with women's sports at all. Don't get me wrong, but I do think that if they want women's soccer to be successful in Mexico, then it's going to have to. The league can't do it all by themselves, especially when it's not profitable for them.
I agree, Jon. I think we here at the Cantina during the pre-game we solved the problem for FMF. So if they were to listen to this episode, they would know what to do. So I agree with you 100%. I do think the clubs should have some assistance, like the government should, subsidize. They should just help out and put some of the funds. And I think something else that the league could do is they could just make regional leagues. Provincia, DF up in Monterrey. You could just have regional leagues and the teams. You could have even collegiate teams compete, and then like the winner of the regional league, they could go meet up for a cup tournament at like a selected venue, and then just hash it out over a weekend, and that's it. And exactly. I think that would at least help it grow. It doesn't have to stay that way, but at least until it becomes more profitable or just.
Well, what it does is again, if you want the sport to be successful, you have to expose it to as many athletes as possible.
Yes.
And if what you're saying is, if it was feasible, then why can't the universities, have teams, and be a part of that. So instead of
and the students, you don't have to pay the students.
Right.
You don't have to pay them.
So you have the Tigres, you have the club team. Why can't you have the university team too? They can become las auténticas Tigres.
Yes. Pumas, Lobos, Buap, like Guadalajara, for example. Just if they were to have the regional league, it would be Chivas, it would be Atlas, and then you have like from the University of UDG and from the Tecos University, Tecos and Leones Negros. That's already 4, like at least teams like known, and then you could have like smaller clubs, but it opens up for all this rivalry,
Yeah, and it
creates rivalry.
Because those aren't the only places where they have university. There's the Watch, and then there's the Watt. There's all sorts of other universities that you could do that, and that way, it cultivates more competition, and then at that point, and again, why on earth would you want to subsidize the most heavily subsidized sport in the United States is football, American football.
Yeah.
And people saying there's no way. How is that possible? Go look at a list of every state and see who their highest paid state employee is. And I guarantee you that out of 50 states, 40 of them, it's going to be the head football coach of the university.
Yeah.
So, yes, American football is heavily subsidized in this country, especially at the high school level and below.
And then, they could have, like, for example, the Teco Stadium would be perfect for like female games. You don't have to play at a 50K stadium.
No. The Cruz Azul women's team, they play at the 10 de Diciembre. It's perfect.
Yeah. So there is smaller stadiums, and it's just, typical FMF, they just do things last minute, push it out of their ass, and then just throw it there. But I do think Mexico has the resources to pull this off. They just need to, be more methodical about it.
I agree 100%, and it's something that they can, if they really thought of it, and then, I'm sorry, you can't just automatically start a league a year and then think that you're going to automatically see. I think that's what happened to them.
Yeah.
It's not that they were just going to just cakewalk through World Cup qualifying.
Yeah.
And it ended up not happening.
And John, the regional leagues, they don't have to be that big. It could be 8 or 10 teams. They could just keep it small and then just hash it out. Maybe they have to play 3 times. So be it, Play each other 3 times.
Build the sport from the grassroots. Find your players. The more players you can look at, the better off you're going to be.
Yeah, and with having that many more teams, that means that many more players, which ultimately is going to make for a better national team.
Exactly. But and I also believe, Joel, that using this college model can work not just for the women, it can also work for the men too. I mean, UNAM is a school of 200,000 students. You cannot tell me that there isn't, that there are 40 guys that can field a very decent, college team, and then have the college circuit, and then bring it down to have the high school level circuit.
That is missing. I think Mexico has completely just bypassed that for whatever reasons. They have completely, but again, it's not just the federation. It's also like the government, which
of course.
They don't.
We know what you're trying to say. I mean, Mexico has what was it, 31, 32 states. Imagine how cool it would be that if you win your state championship, that every year you go and play like the state, the state cup, 32 teams. You just have a straight up knockout tournament.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be out. For 16, 17-year-old kid. I mean, what a great be. Yeah, it's it only.
Yeah, and then you'll have the scouts watching, and these guys will end up in some of the first division teams.
Exactly, and I'm not saying that everyone's going to end up there, but out of the 32 teams, say there's 20, so that's 20. So there's 100. I'm doing math in my head. There's 640 kids.
Yeah.
If you can get 10 kids out of that, it'd be. No, I mean that's.
No, I agree.
Like 10 kids out of that end up becoming pros and doing well. It would be outstanding.
Yeah, and that's 10 kids you didn't have before.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you're exactly right.
Yeah.
Well, I do appreciate you joining me again, making my drive back home a little more palatable, let's say. But here in the CantinaMX podcast, we do thank you for joining us. And did we have anybody on the chat, Joel? I'm not sure if.
Oh man, I didn't check because I was, looking at charts and whatnot.
Well, you've been drinking all night, so I'm sure. And we don't need your drunk posting.
I should have checked though. I didn't get the update. I usually get like a little update saying but we do have a firm 65. So and Surge. So we have 2 quality listeners right there.
Outstanding. Well, we do thank them for their patronage as always, and we thank you, the listener who has downloaded this podcast from either iTunes or Google Play, as we're available. And please, like us on the Facebook. I know the Joel is very active on the Facebook. Chiquis and I run the Twitter page, so if you don't follow us on Twitter, you can follow us there. I think we even have an Instagram page for August. I'm not sure why we have, but apparently we have an Instagram page too. So we are available on social media on the CantinaMX podcast. If you enjoyed this show, if this is the first time you listen to it, one day soon, I'll actually be able to do this podcast not from the car, which is what I'm looking forward to doing here.
From the trunk.
Exactly. Back because when I go out, I'm at home. I'm in my little studio. I've got all my toys and trinkets.
Yes.
I mean, I haven't played my little drops in forever, so it's.
I know.
We haven't heard those in a while, so we will get that going eventually. Anyway, but I do want to thank y'all for listening here on the CantinaMX podcast. For Juan Aceves, my name is John Chagoo. Thank y'all very much. We will do this again next week, so please join us again next week here on